And I think sometimes we just forget how powerful clothes can be.
Absolutely. And where does that come from? Like, where did you learn that as Lawrence Roach?
Ooh.
It's in the book. It's in the book, so it's in public domain. As Law Roach, growing up in Chicago, where does this come from, this confidence that you have in your ability?
Well, I think that I was born queer, first of all. I've always had the same sort of mannerisms. I've always been a very feminine boy. And my last name is Roach. So you can imagine what, you're the new kid in third grade, and I'm like, oh, gay Roach, ah! So it's like you had to build confidence because the things that could have defeated me actually are the things that helped me excel because, my grandfather told me, he said, no one will ever forget your name. Once they hear it one time, they'll never forget it. And that's been true my entire life. And even when people hear me speak, if they don't see me, they remember the voice. So the two things that could have been almost detrimental to me really helped me grow into this person and helped me to have this confidence that I have.
And you talk a lot about your grandmother. Those of us who are big fans know the story of you and her shopping. But in this book, you also talk about the men in your life that helped you and that gave you that confidence, like your grandfather and your uncles. And what was that like to have that village?
Well, I think the most important thing is that my mom was the only girl of 6, and it was all really uber masculine men, but they never tried to change me. They always accepted me for who I was and what I was, and they never, even if I don't think that they understood it, they still never changed me. They loved me for exactly who I was. Even as a little boy, I have a picture in the book, and I got on cowboy boots, and they like holding me up, and to have that type of masculine energy around me, I think really shaped me as well. These are really good questions, actually. This is like my 4th one, and these are the best questions.
Thank you. We're just getting started. I want to tell us about that. What was that like?
So Grandma Eloise was her name, and it was our ritual. Well, the ritual was every night. I mean, who grew up in church here, right? And we all remember. Well, I hope you remember when you. At the beginning of the year, you got church clothes, school clothes, and play clothes, right? And so church was such a pivotal part of growing up, and it started at night for my grandmother. She would take her bath, and you couldn't knock on the door, you couldn't bother her while she was in the bath, and she would get out and she would do her hair, roll her hair, and manicure, pedicure. She did it all herself, and she would lay out her clothes. And so what that did was gave me the opportunity to see the art form of being a woman. It was all these things that went into her preparing herself for the next day, which again, when I was so young, I didn't understand what I was learning. But again, those teachings really carried with me, and I think that's why I wanted to be a stylist. I wanted to play a part in helping women, maintain that art form. And after church, every Sunday we would go thrifting. She called it junking, and it was this wonderland of treasures and possibilities. And again, it was all things that I didn't really understand at the time, but it was shaping me into the person I would become.
So from there, you do a lot of things. I don't want to give away too much of the book. I'm telling you, you have to read the book. And then you open up a store, Deliciously Vintage.
Yeah.
Who's from Chicago? Here. Hold on. From Chicago. Has anybody ever been to Deliciously Vintage?
It was 18th and Hosted in the Arts District, Pilsen. She like, no, girl.
So you're at this point, you have the store, you have Deliciously Vintage, and you're picking up clients, you're bartending on the side, and you're traveling back and forth between New York and LA and bartending and doing all these things. And how was it for you trying to move between all these worlds?
No, I was doing a lot of lying, to be blunt. I was a fucking liar. I went to New York and I got a New York phone number with a New York area code. And I didn't understand, it was a term that people used to always say. It was like, are you local? And I didn't know what that meant for a long time. And I was just like, yes, I'm local. And so what that meant was, were you in the city? So I would take all these meetings and say I was local because I had this 646 area code. And I would fly back and forth from Chicago to New York just to take meetings. And I would spend all the money that I made during the week and the weekend bartending to go and take these meetings to kind of chase my dream. And I talk about it in the book. I met this woman, I call her Godmother Eunice. And one day she told me, she said, you'll never win the game if you're not in the stadium. Y'all want me to say that again?
That is my favorite quote.
She said, you will never win the game if you're not in the stadium. And literally 2 weeks after that, I just picked up everything. I stopped bartending and I moved to LA to really pursue the dream.
So you moved to LA.
I moved to LA.
And then you meet Zendaya. There's
Well,
other things.
Well, I had met Zendaya prior to, so just to backtrack a little bit, I was going to New York and I also was going to LA. I was bouncing back and forth, but the money was coming from bartending. And the way I was feeding myself and supporting myself and my little brother at the time was the bartending. So I was so afraid to let go of the consistent income, right? I was so afraid to let go of the money that I would try to do it all. And when she told me that, then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it all in the hands of the universe because I am one that, I have a mantra, the universe protects and provides, meaning that the universe will protect you from everything that is not meant for you and provide you with everything that is. And so, y'all want me to say that again? Y'all talk to me. I love y'all talk to me. But yeah, the universe will protect you from everything that's not supposed to be for you or that's not meant for you and provide you with everything that is. And so when I came to, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go. And Zendaya started to take off, and our relationship started to build, and people started to pay attention. And it's been great ever since.
Well, let's talk about how it started to take off.
Yeah.
Because you were very much a part of the elevation.
Yeah.
And there's a story in the book that I really love. You refer to her as your sister throughout, which I think is also sweet. And so you took her to her first fashion week.
Yeah.
And it was new for her, and she was a little nervous. And I want you to tell the story about how you encouraged her. I thought it was very clever.
Yeah, so we didn't have any invites to any shows. And we just happened to be in New York for press. And at that time it was at Uptown, I forgot the name. But anyway, so we go and we get out the car and she's wearing this blue and yellow color block coat. And she was 16 at the time, and I was just like, let's just walk around, right? And so a photographer started to take her picture, and then one photographer became 3, and 3 became 6, and 6 became 12. And all these photographers were just taking pictures of her, and she was just like, why are they taking pictures of me? They don't know who I am. And I was like, they don't have to know who you are, you're beautiful. And at that moment, I saw a shift in her. That was one of the first times I saw this shift. And you have to imagine this is a baby. And this is before now, like a 16-year-old can handle that now, with social media and everything. And that picture was on the cover of WWD the next day. And it actually changed the trajectory of our careers. And that designer also went, and I'm really proud of this, that designer also went to compete for the LVMH prize a year later. So yeah.
And so this is where you two started together. And so let's take a look at where you took her, just a sample.
overjoyed that you guys get entertainment and joy from it. Because she and I we had this kind of like a pact that we just wouldn't care what people thought about what we did, but if people enjoyed it, then that would be kind of like the cherry on top of the cake for us. We always dressed and wore things that made us happy or made us laugh or told a story. Like for me, I've always considered myself just a storyteller, and the clothes are the words that complete the narrative, and she's the actress that comes out and turns it out. She turns it to anything. Like with the vintage Terry Mugler robot, like that robot was really made of steel. And you saw her walk on that carpet as graceful, like she was wearing feathers. You know, we've had this relationship where for our relationship is, we call ourselves big ideas and small details. So I'm the one that dreams in grandeur. I'm like, oh, you have to have hair. It has to be 75 inches, and you have to have this, and we gotta wear blue contacts. And she's like, no, we're not. The hair's gonna be to here. We're gonna do this. But our relationship is so perfect in a way that she's able to ground me, and I'm able to excite her, so that we can meet in this special place. But the fact that the world enjoys it gives me more joy than anything else.
It's just amazing. All of them are my favorites, but the Met Gala, I mean, who has ever opened and closed the red carpet?
Nobody. I'm
Another,
very humble. I'm so humble.
so another theme in your book is starting over.
Yeah.
You famously helped one of the greatest icons of our generation to start over, Celine Dion. We're going to take a look at Celine Dion, right? She's beautiful, very demure. Just lovely. But then there are the law years.
Yeah, because those are mine.
These are yours.
Wow.
Yeah. So how did you help Celine Dion find this version of herself? That's what you say in the book, is you help your clients to find themselves. How did you help her find
So so the story was, I love telling stories. Okay, so I got a call. My manager called me at the time, and she said, Celine is trying to get in touch with you. And I was just like, Celine who? I hadn't dreamt that big of a dream yet. And so she was like, Celine Dion. I was like, no way. And they invited me to Vegas to meet her. And so we came in, it was at the Billboard Awards, and she had presented or performed, and I waited in her dressing room for her. And so she came in, and I stood up, and she sat down, and she said, do you want to, she's like, you want to take a seat? And I was like, next to you? And she was like, well, where else could you go to sit? And we talked, and I told her that I understood that everything she's worn, I went back to the image architect, right? I know everything that you've ever worn, and I would love to introduce you to new designers and younger designers. But my job became to change people's perception of who they thought Celine was. Because what we knew was we knew sequins and rhinestones and bugle buttes in Vegas and this thing. And when I met her, she was none of that. Like, Celine was cool, and she tore pictures out of magazines, and she collect clothes, and it was literally the only vice she ever had was fashion. And it was my job to let people know. When I started working, she was 49, and we thought she was 60, And so I had to change the world's perception.
No offense, but it's about the style, right? What she was communicating was
It's true, we thought she was 60. And so I made it my personal, but I made it my personal thing to change people's perception of how we saw her. And that's when you start to see her in Off-White and the Vetements, and in streetwear. It's like, here's Celine Dion walking down the street in streetwear, And what it did was it disrupted everybody's perception of who she was. And then she became something else. And then, you know, they wrote articles. Celine Dion is now a fashion icon at 49. We had known her in our entire lives, you know. So that's what my work has always meant, and what I've always been the most proud of.
And it's interesting. I don't have a picture of it, but you also worked with Mary J. Blige for the Met Gala. And working with women who already have a celebrity, they already have a brand, and how fearless you are to go in and shake it up and offer them something new.
Because I worked with Mary when she was nominated, when she was doing her press run for Mudbound. This is a great story, it's in the book. So I go in and I got all these beautiful gowns and dresses, and you know, we know Mary. Mary is a thigh-high boob. Mary is a, you know what I mean? Like, and so I brought all these dresses, and you know, I was showing her these things. I was like, you know, you're going to Cannes and you're going to be on the red carpet with all these actresses, and you know, I was trying to, you know, in my mind, elevate her. And Mary said, y'all laughing already. Mary said, I like what I like. So I grabbed her hand, I took her right over to the cat suits. And the rules, I said, well, here you go. Because you have to know when to push someone and when not. You know, and as we started to work together, she started to trust me more. Then you saw it change. Then you saw her in a white Versace at the Emmys, and the Cranberry Vera Wang when she performed at the Oscars. And you know, you have to get to a level of trust before you push someone. You know, because some people, everybody doesn't want to be a fashion girl. Some people just want to be pretty. And I think as a stylist, and if there's any people in the audience that are stylists or want to be stylists, you have to remember it's not your moment. And you have to take your time with these women and not try to, you know, not too far, too fast. And the first roller coaster was too far and too fast for Mary. She looked at me, she said, I like what I like. I say, okay, come on.
That's a great segue into the purpose of the book, the self-help and the guiding part of the book. So in the book, you're really encouraging us as readers to go through a process which you have outlined step by step. I haven't done my exercises yet. I'm gonna go back to it. But step by step to define your personal style. And the first step in the process is to get clear about who you are and what you want. Why is that important as a first step?
I think that's not even just for fashion and style, that's just for life, right? I think when you know exactly who you are, you know what you'll stand for and what you want. You know, I'll have this mantra, this other mantra, it's like, people treat you the way you let them treat you. And that's even in relationships. So everything that I'm talking about in the book is basically universal. You know, it's not just about clothes, it's about life in general. But it's super important to know who you are, but it's also just as important to know that it's okay to change. You know, it's okay to go through a revolution and to figure things out, because what we often don't remember is just the way our palate for food matures, our palate for fashion and style and taste matures as well. And a lot of shit that we don't like is from our mamas. Your mama didn't like yellow, so she made you not like yellow. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to go in and you have to challenge yourself to just see the maturation of your style palette. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Can we talk about yours? We're gonna talk about your personal style. Let's talk about your personal style.
There's a few pictures.
There's a few pictures.
So is this when you first got to LA?
It was, close to that.
So you talk about how you first got to LA and you were trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And you were trying to, you know, learn the game. And this is fashionable. This still feels like you, but it's a little different. Now we know you for the long hair and the tall shoes. And you mentioned being inspired by Andre J. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about how you got to this look.
I think that this was always in me. But the real honest reason is that when I started to become recognizable. I had an incident when I was walking in an award show with a client, and there were fans, and it's like, can we take a picture? Can we take a picture? And the person I was with automatically thought that they were talking about them, but they were asking me for pictures, and I saw the look on their face, and so I was like, I need to figure out some sort of disguise, right? Some sort of thing to separate me from when I'm with my clients and when I'm kind of like doing my own thing. Because around this time is when I also started America's Next Top Model. And I remember Andre J. So Andre J was this kind of famous club kid, party promoter in New York in the like early 2000s. And he used to wear the long hair and a long beard. And I remember seeing him and just feeling how courageous he was to walk into the world like that. And so I kind of stole it from him, but I always give him credit. And when I started that's him. And this is just so iconic to me, this image. And so once I started to do it, I felt more like myself than I ever felt before. So I knew it was the right thing, and I knew it was right for me.
It's a beautiful story. It's an amazing cover. So, this brings us to another theme in the book. Show up as yourself. So, what do you say to people who want to show up in a certain way and the people around them are discouraging them? Maybe people are trying,
Real easy. So, to me, we are all shooting for the ultimate level of confidence, right? And for me, that is fuck it. Fuck you. Fuck what you think. Fuck what you think about what I wear or what I say, who I am, how I present. And I think once you get to that point, then life is so easy. Right? You know what I mean? Like, when you can really say, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna wear what I wanna wear, I'm gonna say what I wanna say, and I'm gonna be happy because I'm doing it for myself. And I think that's what I try to, the lessons that's in the book and the exercises that are in the book are to get us closer, and myself included. I'm 97.5% close to fuck you. You know what I mean? I still got a little time to go, but I'm almost there. But that's why I think what we all want to be. And if we think about it, if we think about our elders, right? The elders don't give a fuck. And imagine having the not give a fuck of an 80-year-old in your 30s. Right? And how powerful that is. And just to be able to walk through life and walk through the world with that amount of confidence.
So speaking of confidence, this question is kind of selfish. Okay, so you give us a lot of style tips in the book. One is, if you find something you love, you shouldn't wear it just once. And this is kind of tough in the social media space, because you're like, well, I took a picture of it, I posted it. What do we do with it after we post it? Am I the only one? Okay. Wear it again. How do we wear it again?
My thing is, if you go to the store, you try it on, you like it, you buy it, right? If you buy it, you wear it. If you wear it and you love it, you live in it, right? Because I think that's the true testament of style, to be able to own things. And clothes are expensive. They're investments. And make that investment pay off for you. You know, remix it, wear it different ways. My mother had a dress, the same black dress that she wore to everything. She wore it to every funeral, every wedding, every social function, because she knew exactly how it made her feel, right? She knew exactly when she put it on, the amount of confidence that it would give her. You know, and I think we should all have those pieces. I like to call them our power pieces, right? If you're having a bad day, and for me, it's a crisp white button-down shirt. I could put a crisp white button-down shirt, and I automatically take it to a place of confidence, because I know exactly how I look. I know I've gotten so many compliments. I walk in and be like, oh, you just look so crisp, and you know. And find your power piece and wear it. And we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people on social media, because we all know at this point, it's only people showing the best of themselves, right? It's not real. It's really not real. nobody's really showing themselves on their worst day or whatever. So stop trying to compete with that and compare to that, because it's not even good for our mental health. You know what I mean? Just like, if you love it, wear it. And whoever don't like it, what we gonna say to them? Damn right. Damn right.
And I love that you said the white, crisp white shirt. You have a bunch of them. You buy them on Amazon in bulk.
I do. Yeah, because every time, especially when I was working a lot, I would have to move fast, and I'd just pack a bunch of them in a suitcase, and I would put them on. I can wear them with, like, I have this, and I love skirts. I have this long skirt. I throw it on with a boot or a sneaker, and it always felt chic, you know, and put together, and it was easy. The shirts cost $14. It wasn't a big investment. And it's just always, it was about the way it made me feel. And that's the power of clothes, I think.
So speaking of repeating, you still reference your vintage roots.
Yeah.
Bringing back looks from the past and from history. And in 2022, you dressed Bella Hadid in several famous vintage looks from your personal fashion collection.
Some of them was. Yeah, so what happened was, Donatella Versace actually opened up the Versace archive to me, because she said I was one of the only stylists that she trusted. And so the first one in the black is a Gianni Versace from 1985. The next one is Christian Dior from 1957. And the Chanel from the 80s is from my archive. Yeah.
So you have this personal archive. Why do you have a personal archive? What do you feel like is the importance of collecting fashion, and when did you start collecting fashion?
I started collecting around the time I opened the store, but again, considering myself a storyteller, there's always a place to insert these clothes. One of my favorite was when Zendaya wore a look by Yves Saint Laurent that belonged to Eunice Johnson. And she wore it to receive an award from Essence.
Does everybody know who Eunice Johnson is? Yeah. Okay.
And so, you know, I had that piece for years, but it was the perfect time. And after that, you know, people who didn't know who Eunice Johnson was, she started trending on Twitter. And for who don't know, like, Eunice Johnson revolutionized the fashion industry for Black women. She was so rich that she would go and buy all the couture collections, and then she would say, I'm not gonna buy it if you don't put Black girls in the show. You know, and she bought those couture collections and put them on tour, the Ebony Fashion Fair, to show us what European clothes look like and couture look, and brought it to our neighborhoods. And for me to put Zendaya in that, to pay homage to this great woman, was so special to me. And had I not had that in my archive, I wouldn't have been able to have that moment.
Would you ever do an exhibition of your archive?
I think so.
Okay.
I think hopefully, you know, hopefully one day Stan will let us do it. A retrospect of my work through my archives and, you know, and the clothes.
When you started out, the houses wouldn't lend to you and your clients.
Yeah.
So how did you find young designers that you work with? We have a lot of students in the audience. Where are the Scabbies? And they want to know, I believe they want to know, what are some of the things that you look for in emerging designers? What makes you see something and say, I have to have it, my client has to have it?
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing about social media, although there's so many bad things, is that it made our world smaller, and it made the possibility to talk to young designers around the world easier. And early in my career, I would see something and I thought it would be great out of necessity, because the big houses wasn't loaning to us. But then as I started to mature, what I wanted to do is make sure that if I see a young designer and it was something I wanted to use, that they had some part of the business together, right? Because what happens if I put one of your looks on Zendaya and you get all this press from around the world, can you sustain that press, right? So I started to before I did that, to reach out to young designers and say, okay, hey, can you handle this? Because I thought it was my responsibility not to put somebody in the limelight and they can't sustain everything that's going to come to them. So I would say, if you are just a creative, please find someone who is just business to be your partner. Because fashion is not a hobby. Fashion is a business. And fashion is a tough business. And you always gonna need business people around you to let you just be creative. All the greats had it. You know, Yves Saint Laurent had his business person, and Christian, you know, all the greats. You know, Tom Ford, exactly. So if you don't have that, look for that and make that happen, because it's not about what you cop, it's about what you keep, right? That's a Lauryn Hill quote. But yeah, so just make sure the business is together. So what I figured out is, a lot of times when I give young designers that look, it will hurt them more than it will help them. So I had to kind of change the way I did that.
And speaking of that, for young creative stylists, designers, and who are building a brand, how do they build their value? And by value, I mean price.
Right.
How do they build their value, and then how do they communicate that to their clients? How do they get people to understand the price and the value of what they're doing?
You have to know your worth. You have to know your worth, and you have to demand it. You have to demand what you know your worth is. It's trouble. And if you ever get somebody to say like, oh, I just want to borrow that and I'll post you, that's not support. Support is when they pay for it. That's the real support. It's tough, but just to backtrack that a little bit, also know who your client is. Like, know who the girl that you're designing for, right? Because if you have a strong point of view, in my opinion, in my experience, your client will find you. And when they find you, they'll be willing to pay whatever your prices are, right? Because they've been searching for you this whole time. So it's about having a strong point of view and designing for who your target client is, or your target market is.
So let's talk about that girl. She's trying to figure out her style. She picks up the book. At what point is it time to get a stylist? Like, how bad does it have to be? Is it, I need to call in reinforcement?
No, I don't think you need to do that. I think having a stylist is a luxury, right? Like for me, my name Luxury Law, I never changed that because I wanted people to perceive me as a Maybach. You know, I wanted people to perceive me as a private jet, you know, because I wanted my prices to reflect that, you know. So, you know, I wanted people to understand that I was a luxury service, right? But I don't think people, until you get to that point, I think that we're all capable of figuring out our style. Like one of the exercises in the book is to go to a store and try on a bunch of things that you didn't think you liked, right? You have to go in, if you like, oh, I hate plaid, I hate stripes, go in there and just put a whole room of stripes and plaid and just figure it out. There's nothing wrong with changing and figuring out. We don't have to always know. I'm figuring out my style now. You know, now that I stopped styling as much and I'm more public facing, I'm figuring it out, you know, and I talk about starting over. This is my starting over period, and I'm trying to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's also nothing wrong with making mistakes. Every outfit don't have to be the best outfit, right? You learn from all the mistakes you make, especially with style. You can't be afraid of that. And if somebody don't like your outfit, what you gonna say? Exactly.
I love it. We have a new mantra. I don't know if y'all can go around campus. Put that out there to each other.
It's the point about it is just having no fear. No fear.
Absolutely. So speaking of no fear, you moved to LA. And when you moved to LA, you set this goal. You had a copy of the Hollywood Reporter, the list of the top stylists in Hollywood, and your goal was just to make the list.
Yeah.
And since then, you have now been on the cover twice. you've been named not just on the list, but the most powerful stylist in Hollywood.
Twice.
Twice. And the CFDA, the Council of Fashion Designers of America, created a category for styling in order to give you an award
That nobody else got
that nobody
since.
else. Nobody else. What does it feel like? And
It
was
feels-
it what you expected?
It feels amazing. No, it feels, I'm gonna be quite honest, what is the most amazing part of it? Because I was the first Black stylist to get a cover. And I just come from a place of, although I'm the first, I never wanna be the last. And every door that I've been able to open, I wanna keep it open for people that's coming behind me. And that's what I always wanted the majority of my legacy to be, is that I changed the landscape of what I do. And also, I've also been able to change the landscape when it comes to financially, the type of money that people are making because of I went in and fought for the money, right? And then told them you should fight for the money too. You know what I mean? Because when I started, that list, if you want to use that list as kind of the gauge, right? It's 20, they do 25 stylists every year. And my first time on the list, 24 of the 25 were white women, right? And since me having that cover, it's changed a lot. It's changed a lot, and I've seen more visibility of people who look like me. And you also have like people like Jason Bolden, who is incredible, who styles Nicole Kidman and Angelina Jolie. And when I first started working with Anne Hathaway, it didn't exist for a Black stylist to dress A-list white talent. You know what I mean? And so, whether people credit me for that or not, when I go to bed, I know and I feel good that I've been able to change the landscape of this career that I chose to pursue. And that makes me happy, no matter anything else.
I say to people all the time, it's so important that you pursue your dream. Because you pursuing your dream is making space for other people. And if you don't do it, you're leaving something on the table for somebody else. Yeah, that's special. So, in your book, you talk a lot about spirituality. There's a lot of spirituality in the book, and spiritual principles that you've even taught to your clients. One that's most important to you is manifesting. And you say the secret of manifesting is focus. And so I want to know, with all that you've already manifested, what are you focusing on next?
Two things. I also would manifesting, the other part of it is gratitude. You have to be grateful for the things that you have and the things that you don't have. You have to be grateful for all the yeses, but also all the no's. And I'm just really focusing on, I'm in a place where I think I can do whatever I want to do. Like, I want to win an Emmy and maybe an Oscar, and, I want to own a house. Like, I don't want to be a creative director. I want to own a house. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go to Europe and buy a house. Like, I want to do things that's just never been done before. And every day I wake up and the possibility of me doing that feels so close every single day. And actually, my next book is, my publisher don't know this, but I'm saying anyway. My next book is going to be How to Build a Master Manifester. Because I really believe that the thing about manifesting is that you have to get it to a place where it doesn't feel like a chore, that it's just natural. You just wake up and you expect things to come to your life. And I think I've reached that place now where I don't have to work too hard for things just to come to me. And so that comes through focus and gratitude.
Well, thank you. We are so grateful for you being here and for you sharing all that you've learned. Yes, let's round of applause.
love questions. I love questions. If that's all right.
We were gonna do a Q&A, but who am I looking to? Can we do two? Can we do two? Okay.
I know I was a little late, but we gotta get some questions.
Okay, I might get in trouble, but okay, we'll do one.
Blame it on me.
Okay, one, and then two. Okay, I'm sorry. One and two. I wasn't supposed to do that, but you. What was
Sorry.
our mantra? What was our mantra?
Well, that was more of a statement than a question. But you're beautiful too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. One more.
Come on.
What trends deserve a place on the red carpet? Which one should you look at?
I never really followed trends. I actually started a trend with the method dressing. And so I never really thought about trends because I think the way you dress should be authentic to you. But I do understand when you're young, you want to look like what your friends look like, right? And so I think it's okay, but never let that take over who you are. Just try to find who you are on the inside and dress that way. And what you'll find out is that you start to set the trends. Like you'll turn around and people are dressing like you because it's all confidence. So when the confidence come out, people see that and they're drawn to that and they end up wanting to be like you. Like I had a party last night and it was like 3 boys with the bust down. I was like, y'all gonna wear my looks to my party? All right. So set your own trends if possible.
Exactly.
No, one more. Come on, one more.
We need to come to the bag.
Well, for that question, I have to look at somebody like Rick Owens, right? Like Rick, who's a friend of mine, but Rick sells you the same collection every season. And you go and buy the same collection every season. It's like he gives you the same silhouettes in different colors and you go and spend thousands of dollars, at least I do, every season on the same thing. And it's like, who says you have to adapt to what somebody else thinks you have to adapt to? And it's what I said earlier, when you know who your client is or who that person you're designing for, they'll find you. Rick has started an entire cult. Like Rick has the straight boys wearing 4-inch heels. Like, I was like, you?
Yeah, that's
I'm like, you? That's your boyfriend? He got on Kiss boots? All right. You know what I mean? So you have to stand strong in who you are and what your ideas are, right? And don't let people, because even with me, like, people always want like fashion advice. What should I wear? What should I wear? And I always said my entire career, that's not for me to tell you. That's for you to figure out, and that's for me to help you elevate that if that's what it is. But it should be you. Don't adapt for anybody. Just be who you are. I really usually start with an emotion. For me, clothes have always been emotional, and I have to feel something. Especially with clients I was really close to, with like Zendaya and Celine and Carrie. It was like I always had to feel. When I see something, I have to feel it. You know. I'm also a dreamer. Like I dream about looks. You know, I go to bed and I see it, and I come back and I see hair and makeup and accessories. It's all for me. It's styling was always so spiritual to me. I just have to feel something.
So, everybody stay in your seats. There is a photo op. Okay. So, but stay here to get instructions on how to, thank you. Sharice is gonna tell us how to get ready for the next set. And thank you so much, Mom.